Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 372. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded in the morning of Thursday, August the 15th, from the James Strong studio in Western St. Charles County. Had a little stutter there. I don't know if I've ever done a podcast on a Thursday morning. Well, I guess there's a first time for everything. Now, isn't there? Topic of today's podcast. Is it always about the money? And this has been off and on a topic of mine for a long time. And I've gone to both ends of the spectrum. I've said, look, it's always about the money. And I've also said, look, it's not always about the money. And that statement, while it sounds conflicting, it's really not. I mean, there's having enough money, not having enough money, and having so much money that it's ridiculous. And I've always been of the opinion that there's a threshold, a line, a line of demarcation, if you will, as to how much money do you need. Now, there's always a prudent way to look at it, and the way I look at things may or may not be the way you look at things. But I think using very opaque terms, if you look at things like, look, you need enough money to have a house, have food, have insurance to have your medical bills paid off. If you still have children around, to make sure that they have everything they need. And then you also want some luxuries, okay? And a luxury depends on who you are. I mean, if you're to some people, a luxury is air conditioning. To some, luxury is a car. To others, a luxury is a Range Rover. I mean, it just depends. And you can get silly with both of the ends of the spectrum. So, like most things, the sweet spot is somewhere in between. You can earn tons and tons of money and work your whole life away, and then you have a health problem, you're getting on in years, and you look at your portfolio and think, wow, look what I've done. And I will never have an opportunity to even put a dent in this. And the money goes to your heirs, your husband or wife, your charity of choice, the state if you do nothing. To those of you who have not filled out a will and don't know how probate works, you need to find a will, because Uncle Sugar could take your money too. And that happens between Uncle Sugar. If you don't do the right thing, Uncle Sugar and the lawyers will take the vast majority of your wealth, which is not a good thing. Anyway, the sweet spot is somewhere in between. It's having enough money. And as most of you know, I recently walked away from the day job. I'm 65 years old now. I can do that. Okay, my trophy wife and I saved prudently, invested wisely, started early, and we're very fortunate that I can do that. And I've made this statement to people before. I said, look, they say, well, you were retired, right? And some people actually ask the question, which is a little bit rude. No, it's a whole lot rude. They said, well, how much money do you have? And I always tell them, I have more money than Bill Gates. And they look at me and say, what? I said, yeah. They said, well, how much is that? And my answer is, I have enough. I have enough. And Bill Gates doesn't have enough. Because, I mean, basically, he was a multi-billionaire. Depending on which way the wind blew. Sometimes he was the richest man in the world. Sometimes he was second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth richest man in the world. Okay. But it was always in like the top 10, usually the top 2 or 3 richest men in the world. Okay. But he still felt he had to get on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane and go to his island and do Lord knows what. And it ruined his marriage. And he had to give a bunch of it to his wife, which that's how the law works. Okay. She helped him earn it. She should get a good chunk of it. And she did. So what does he have to do? Earn more money. So a guy like Bill Gates doesn't have enough. And when you say, is it always about the money for a guy like him? I have to think yes. For some of us, maybe yes, maybe no. But we're going to talk a little bit about the economy today, and the economy here, and the economy in a place that once upon a time was a utopia where everybody and their dad wanted to go. Okay, and in this snapshot in time, right now it is 11:29 Central Daylight Time, and the stock market, which if you've been following it, in fact, I sent a text to my financial advisor about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago, when the stock market started to tank. I said, hey, should I go back to my employer and start begging for my job back again? And he laughed and says, yes, I would. But he was just teasing, of course. Well, it's bouncing back already. 2 weeks ago, the economy was in the toilet, and they thought a recession is here. Inflation is back to stay. And if you haven't sold off all your stocks, you're in trouble. Well, guess what? As of right now, as of 11:30 Central Daylight Time on Thursday, August the 15th, the Dow Jones is up 1.3%. The S&P is up 1.4%. And the gains that we lost are just about erased. Why? Well, because the economy is good. 2 weeks ago, it was in the tank and we were braced for the recession. The soft landing didn't happen. Now, hey, life is good. Life is fantastic. And we're all good. Again, is it always about the money? We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of stories, where we are, where we were, and where people in a certain part of the world are. And let's go ahead and start with that. Once upon a time, and this might have started with the Jurassic Park movies, okay? Was it Jurassic Park? Maybe it wasn't Jurassic Park. I don't know. Maybe it was the Lord of the Rings. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, some fantasy movie was filmed in New Zealand. And New Zealand is an interesting part of the world. My niece spent time in New Zealand, and she said it was just a green utopia. It was beautiful, almost untouched by the fast life of the Western world. And a lot of people have said that, look, the economy is fine. People have enough. Everything's good. It's New Zealand's where you want to be. In fact, so many people wanted to move to New Zealand. The government said, hey, we don't want all you people here. You can't come. Well, the worm has turned on New Zealand. In fact, there's a story in Reuters this week. New Zealand, people are leaving New Zealand in droves. In fact, record numbers of people are leaving New Zealand. Now, we're not talking about people who were there as expats to work from home and now they're gone. We're talking about people who have lived in New Zealand forever are saying, that's enough. I'm out. Why? Because unemployment numbers are rising, going through the roof. Interest rates remain high, and economic growth is anemic. That's according to their government statistics. Now, data released by the Statistics New Zealand on Tuesday of this week, 2 days ago, showed that 131,200 people left New Zealand in the year that ended June 2024. I guess that's their fiscal year end. Provisionally, the highest number on record for an annual period. About a third of these were headed to Australia, which you think, well, that's not far away. Yeah, it is. It's like 1,000 miles away. Okay. It's still far away. Okay. Now, while net migration, that's the number of those migrating minus those that are leaving, still remains pretty high level. The economists also expects this to wane as the number of foreign nationals wanting to move to New Zealand falls because of their very soft economy. Now, data shows that those departing were 80,000 of them were citizens. That's double the number seen before the COVID-19 numbers hit. An example that the story gives, there's a lady named Marilee Allen. She's currently planning her move with her partner and their 14-year-old daughter early next year to Hobart. That's the Australian island of Tasmania. There's a lot of opportunity over there, she says. There always has been, always looking for people in my profession, says Allen. Ms. Allen is a dental administration worker. I've got lots of friends that have gone to Australia purely because of the better work opportunities and better standard of living. Australia just seems to have it together. Now, back during the pandemic, encouraged by then government's handling of the outbreak, New Zealanders living overseas returned home in historically high numbers. Now, the country only has 5.4 million people in the whole country, okay? The whole country. I mean, less than New York City, less than a lot of cities in the whole country. But the love affair for this country is over for some. In fact, economists say New Zealanders frustrated by the high cost of living, high interest rates, fewer job opportunities are looking to Australia, the UK, and elsewhere, other English-speaking countries, okay? Of course, you're going to want to go there because they speak the language. Now, New Zealand's economy is struggling after the central bank hiked cash rates 521 basis points in its most aggressive tightening since the official cash rate was recorded back in 1999. The economy annual growth is only 0.2% in the fourth quarter. Unemployment is up to 4.7% in the second quarter. Inflation remains high at 3.3%. Now, those numbers don't seem horrible, but everything's relative. Okay. Furthermore, Australia has been recruiting and offering relocation packages in areas such as nursing, policing, and teaching, where they have skills shortages and they're attracting New Zealanders. If you're a New Zealander, you don't need a work visa to go to Australia. At the same time, the New Zealand government has undertaken a significant downsizing of the country's public service, leaving many skilled workers looking for jobs. An interesting article. So now all of a sudden, New Zealand, which was the utopia of the world, it was fine until it wasn't. It was fine until people had trouble paying the bills. It was fine until they didn't have enough. And that's what I'm talking about when I ask the question, is it always about the money? In some respects, yes. Now, here's the deal. Do you want to live in a place where it's calm, it's quiet, the crime rate is low, everybody's happy, the ecology is wonderful, but you can't afford a house? Okay, well, it kind of doesn't matter. If this is a utopian society, but you can't afford a place to live on what you earn, there's a problem. And that's how a lot of societies are. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. I had a friend once upon a time, this was back, golly, in the 1980s, maybe the 70s, early 80s. Okay, it was in the early 1980s. And he went on a European vacation. And they went to Scandinavia. And he came back just being in love with Sweden. He said, look, Sweden is so wonderful. Sweden is a country where nobody works too hard. Everybody has enough. The government pays for everything, your health care, you name it, the government. Nobody wants for anything in Sweden. And so a bunch of people moved there who weren't Swedish. And now all of a sudden, Sweden has big time problems. The problem with society, and we can't even relate to that here in the U.S. because we have such a melting pot in the U.S., Canada also. We're such a melting pot. You name it, and that person is represented here. And I know we have social unrest in this country. It's a shame. But if you consider the diversity that we have in this country, it's amazing that we just haven't killed each other off, because all things considered, we're quite tolerant of each other because of our differences are so huge. In Sweden, in fact, all these Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, it's almost like they're all related. In fact, in Iceland, they are. In Iceland, I read a story earlier this week, maybe it was last week. In Iceland, there's a deal where they say coffee before sex. And so I thought, well, I'm going to read this story. What's that all about? People wake up in the morning before they have a cup of coffee. They don't get out of bed. They do the married thing. That's not it at all. When you go on a date, and I put date in quotation marks, you really don't do that. What you do is you meet someplace, look at one another, introduce one another, jump in the sack, and then if it works out well, then you have coffee. And not a real date, because dates are expensive, bars are expensive, cost of living is expensive. But the funny thing about Iceland, and that's Iceland is like New Zealand, is like Sweden. It's a small country where everybody is the same. And everybody has an app on their phone. And before you do the hookup thing in Iceland, you run the app against each other, because there's a real good chance that you're related. And of course, you don't want to be doing that. It's weird. Even in an open society like Iceland, that's weird. So they run the app. Okay, we're not related, so let's do our thing. But again, these people, it's like a country full of, it's like a big extended family. Okay, New Zealand is kind of like that too, and it was just fine until it wasn't. And I went on the comments after the story, and sometimes it's funny to read the comments after the story. And once upon a time, New Zealand had a very, very liberal left-wing government. They had it for a long, long time. And they've recently gone the other end. They're more of a right-wing government. And the comments are like, yeah, well, those lefties ruined the whole country. And the other people say, well, the lefties had it right, but now the righties are in charge. They've ruined the country. Okay. And I can't speak for New Zealand, but I can speak for the U.S. Who's ever in charge really doesn't have a ton to do with the economy. I mean, let's be honest. The last 7 years, to say that we've had poor leadership at the top level, I think is being kind. And the economy in the past 7 years has really been pretty good. In fact, it's been really good. The stock market has been fantastic, okay, in spite of the government, in spite of who's in charge, okay? So these people making comments, I think they're just, they should start these out as, I feel like, okay, well, good for your feelings, but your feelings are not based in facts. But it always seems to be about the money. I mentioned earlier about how things were just horrible until they're not. Out of the Wall Street Journal today. Why is the stock market going crazy? Well, because retail sales rose 1% last month, blowing past forecasts. And that's the way the market works. That's the way the economy works. That's how things work in the economy. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely is a thing. It's not, did you make money or did you lose money? It's how did you do when compared to the projection. I've seen cases where company ABC was forecast to have sales down 7% this year, and it came in where the sales were just down 2%. And the stock went through the roof. Look, your sales are down 2%. The stock went through the roof. Well, yeah, because we thought it was going to be down 7%. And a lot of the times the market takes that into consideration. So the stock is priced low based on what they thought was going to happen, okay? Here, the retail sales rose 1%, which doesn't seem like a ton, okay? But it is a ton because they didn't expect it to raise hardly at all. In fact, retail sales grew by an unexpected, robust, there's a word for the trophy wife, robust 1% last month. Data showed earlier this morning. Walmart showed solid gains. In fact, in Asia, the consumer is also a big thing. Reports showed that retail sales picked up in China, while consumer spending helped lift quarterly growth in Japan. So people are buying stuff, and the markets in China, Japan, and the U.S. are going through the roof. It's just, again, what did they think it was going to do? Well, it doesn't matter what they thought it was going to do because that's not what it did. And it went from prepare yourself because the soft landing is not here to, wow, sales are up more than we thought. So it's Katie bar the door. Now things are just wonderful. And many of those losses that came in the past couple of weeks, 3 weeks maybe, are just, they're erased. not erased yet, but close to being erased. In fact, as of right now, let me check the numbers right now. As of right now, year to date, the Dow Jones is up 7.3% for the year. The S&P 500, which is the truer index, is up 16.77% for the year. Translation, where else are you going to make 16% on your money? Okay. Now there's risk involved in that. But if you have $1 million in the bank, congratulations, you just made $160,000. That's a lot. Okay. And there's a lot more people than you think that have $1 million in the bank. So this is a big deal for a lot of people. Now, again, what does all this mean? Retail sales are up. Okay. And the way stuff is sold anymore is, it's an interesting way to look at things. I have a friend who's a marketing guy, and he had told me a long time ago that, hey, old people don't buy stuff. Well, I thought that was baloney, because old people have usually more money than young people. But old people save their money. Young people spend their money. I mean, that's painting with a broad brush, but it's kind of how it goes, okay? And the way shopping is done is an interesting way. That's being kind. Case in point, when I recently left the day job, I've never, ever, ever paid for a cell phone. My employer's always bought my cell phone because I needed one for business, and it doubled as my personal cell phone. So part of my negotiation when I left was I said, look, I'd like to keep my number. Is that okay? And they said, sure, you can keep your number. The phone is in the process of being paid for. You can have the phone too if you just pay it off. And the program they had is you pay so much per month for so many months. Okay. That's the way it worked. If you opt out of their program, then you got to pay the phone off. Okay. And I get that. And I'll go ahead and mention the company just because, but the company was AT&T. And the last thing the boss left me with after we made the handoff with the phone, he said, look, watch these people because they're fishy. He never said dishonest, but the inference was there. They'll get you every way they can and then some. Okay. So I thought, okay, I'll be careful. Well, the trophy wife and I decided to go with her company, which is T-Mobile. Okay. And they would not let me out of the contract. They said, no, this contract is brand new. I said, no, this contract's not brand new. This contract is 23 years old. Well, you got to go to the store and talk to the people at the store. I did go to an AT&T store, talk to the person on the floor and the manager. Nope, can't do it. You got to call the people. Okay, well, I called the people. They said, come see you. Well, you got to call them. So I called them. They said they couldn't do it. You got to talk to technical support. Called technical support, and they said, of course, we'll get back with you later because nobody answers the phone. We're not gonna wait for you. We're gonna call you back when we feel like it, and then when you get on the phone, you're still gonna wait. But I got to somebody, and they kept saying the same thing. Nope, your plan is only so old, so you can't do it. You got to wait for 2 years before you do this. And I said, no. Look back again. And they asked for some code off my phone. I gave them the code off my phone. She came back and said, you know what? You're right. Let's do this. So they finally did it. And I finally got it changed over. But what a hassle. What a nightmare. What a pain in the neck. I recently got a retirement / birthday present from a coworker that I used to work with. And she sent it. And via Amazon, I opened it up, I looked at it, I said, okay, this is cool, but who's this from? So I texted the whole family, nobody in the family knew anything about it. And I started thinking, I said, there was something about it that kind of smelled like it was a lady that I've worked with for many, many years. So I called her. Sure enough, it was her. She said, well, there should have been a note included in there. Well, there's no note. So that's just how they do business. Sorry, we didn't include the note. Sorry. What I'm getting at is, all this online, click on the QR code, go online to do this, text this, email that. What a pain in the neck. Who's the biggest retailer? Why are sales up through the roof? Because shoppers are flocking to Walmart. Powerful earnings and sales. In fact, the giant retailer says U.S. consumer spending is steady. It's just through the roof. And Walmart, I mean, you've all seen the people of Walmart videos, and the people that work there, and if you can imagine it, they shop at Walmart. And I don't think it's a Walmart thing. I think it's just that's where they shop because they have good prices. And they do. They have the best prices around. You can say whatever you want about it, okay? They have a good selection. They have a good prices. A lot of people shop at Walmart. A lot of people don't like Walmart, but I think to myself, I don't know why they don't. I understand the experience that you get or you don't get there sometimes. I understand that. But I change my oil in my cars, and sometimes friends and family, I change oil in their cars. And to buy a 5-quart jug of synthetic oil at Walmart, it's $10 cheaper there than anywhere else. Anywhere else, sometimes more, at least $10 cheaper. Now, why would you go anywhere else when there's a Walmart on every third block? I mean, there's almost as many Walmarts as there are Starbucks shops, okay? So there's more Walmarts than anything. And if you go into there to buy oil, it's $10 cheaper. Why would you go anywhere else? It's convenient to buy, and it's $10 cheaper. Now, are you going to get rich over $10? Friends, it's $10, and you're not getting anything else extra for it. I'm talking about an auto parts store, another department store, online, you name it, Walmart's going to be $10 cheaper. I've seen some websites where you can go and get it for about the same price, and then it's $20 for shipping. Well, forget it. Why would you do that? Okay. But the U.S. consumers might be spending carefully, but they're still flocking to Walmart stores. In fact, Walmart stocks were up over 6.5% on that news. The country's largest retailer posted strong sales in its latest quarter, and executives say they don't see signs of fraying demand. As businesses and investors are searching for clues about consumer demand, Walmart said Thursday that its U.S. comparable sales, and measures both stores and e-commerce, because you can buy stuff online at Walmart too, rose 4.2% in the 3-month period that ended July 26th, and at a faster pace than in the previous 2 quarters. Walmart shares surged early on Thursday morning trading. Stock has gained 30% year to date. That's easily outpacing the S&P. What did I say the S&P was? 60.5, something like that. If you bought Walmart stock, you're up 30%. Now, what does that mean? Again, you got $1 million in the bank, and if you had it all in Walmart stock, you've made $300,000. Congratulations. Now, executives and shoppers are gravitating to deals as well as convenience of online order pickup and delivery, which led to customer gains, especially among higher income shoppers. And that is very interesting. It is and it isn't. I'm going to read that again. Executives said shoppers are gravitating to deals as well as the convenience of online order pickup and delivery, which led to consumer gains, especially among higher income shoppers. Now you think to yourself, why would the higher income people, the affluent, shop at Walmart? I'll tell you why. First of all, it's easy. It's simple. You pull into the parking lot, which is huge. You walk into the store with a cart, which they've done something to their carts. Once upon a time, Walmart, you had to look for the cart that only had 1 bad wheel because you could make it with that. Most of the carts had 2 and 3, sometimes 4 bad wheels, but they've done something with their carts. So their carts actually roll straight nowadays. So that's a plus. You go in the store, you pick up a cart, you pick up your stuff. You either get in line because the Walmart out by me, all of a sudden they've put a bunch of cashiers in there instead of having the self-checkout. Maybe just one person in front of you, sometimes no people in front of you. You check out, they thank you, you go to the car, you're done. Now, is that easier than going on to Amazon and ordering something and then that's not what I want, so I'll just return it? And I understand it's not hard to return stuff on Amazon. People say it's easy. If you get it and say, oh, this is the wrong color, or, oh, this is not what I want, or it's the wrong size, or it doesn't fit, or whatever. All I have to do is put it in a package, drive it up to the local Kohl's store, drop it off, and it's done. Now, that doesn't sound hard. But consider this, and this is how people have shopped for forever. And it's almost like a new concept that nobody even realized before. Okay. Here's a new concept. Instead of doing that, you just go up to the store, you pick it off the shelf, you look at it and you say, wow, I like that color. Or, wow, this color isn't what I thought it was. Put it down. Oh, here's the color I want. Okay. Does it fit? I don't know. Let me try it on. Yep. It fits. It's the right color. It fits. I like the price. I'll buy it. And you're done. End of story. End of everything. To me, that's a whole lot easier than ordering something online. Some stuff you can order online. I order stuff online. The stuff I order all the time, sure, because I order it time after time after time after time. It's always going to be the same. I've ordered clothes online, and guess what? About half the time, they don't fit. Half the time I send it back. Half the time, I'm like, you know what? They're a little bit tight. I'll just lose weight, and then I don't. Or they're a little bit loose. I'll just pick up weight sometime, and in the meantime, I look like a baggy clown until I put on the weight. No, just try on the clothes. They fit. Buy them. They don't fit, don't buy them. To me, that's a whole lot easier. And I'm wondering if more people are doing that. I have to think that. In fact, Walmart saw a slight pickup in this general merchandise category. Discretionary items like electronics and home good, which have been in decline for 11 straight quarters, they've come back too. In fact, Walmart CFO John David Rainey said, "We continue to believe that consumers are discerning. They are choiceful. They are focusing on essentials versus discretionary items, but we have not seen any incremental fraying of consumer health." In other words, they know customers are getting picky, but they keep selling more stuff all the time. In fact, Walmart raised their outlook too. I mean, they said, look, do you think things are good now? They're going to get even better. Now, Home Depot, McDonald's, and Disney, they sounded warnings about flagging consumer spending after years of pent-up pandemic demand. Amazon.com said consumers have been more likely to look for deals and lower prices on essential items after it reported that year-over-year growth of its online segment slowed for the first quarter. Home Depot executives said they expected demand to stay tight for the rest of the year. In fact, they said they expected 3 to 4% decline in sales. They had originally said a 1% decline. Now they're saying 3 to 4%. That's Home Depot. Walmart, not so much. So why is Walmart doing things differently than the other ones? And you have to look at the model, because it is always about the money when you go to buy something. I mentioned this, did I mention it on the last podcast, maybe the one before that, but Southwest Airlines. I love Southwest Airlines. Once upon a time when I started business travel a lot, I flew TWA, if you remember that, once upon a time, because they had a St. Louis hub. And TWA was bought by American. And really, to be honest, the transition was kind of easy. In fact, it was a little bit better because TWA had a bunch of the old planes and American had a little bit newer planes, but they kept St. Louis as the hub and everything was good. But then they pulled out of St. Louis. And now if you want to fly American, you got to fly. I think they fly to Dallas. They fly to Chicago. They fly to Miami. They fly, where else they fly? They fly to New York. Okay. I think they fly to Los Angeles still, but that's about it. If you want to fly anyplace else, you better go Southwest because nobody else flies it. I mean, sure, you want to go to Atlanta, you can fly Delta. But you get what I'm saying. They just don't fly to a whole lot of places, and Southwest does. Southwest did things in a wonderful way. You don't have to get in line. You don't have to pay for your bag. It's just easy. You buy the ticket online. This is what you pay. You're done. You check in. You get in line. You get on the plane. Life is good. American just makes things more difficult. Well, the people who run Southwest say, hey, we're not making enough money. They're making money, but they're not making enough money. We want to make money like American Airlines is making money. So we're going to start doing things like American Airlines. Friends, Walmart does things differently than Home Depot. Now, you can like it or you can not like it. But what Walmart never did is they said, you know what? We're going to start doing things like Home Depot. Nope, they never did do that. They said, this is Walmart. This is how we do things. And when the smoke finally cleared, they're making more money than anybody else as far as retailers go. Southwest Airlines would be wise to follow that same pattern. They've, for years and years and years, made money hand over fist. I understand profits are down now. Not gone, but down. And if you look at the airline industries, I mean, for how many years, how many decades did the legacy airlines, especially American, just lose money? In fact, they lost so much money, they ran out of money. And U.S. Air bought American Airlines for pennies on the dollar. So, yeah, U.S. Air bought American Airlines. It wasn't the other way around. You think to yourself, well, no, strong American bought U.S. Air because there is no more U.S. Air. Well, no. Basically, U.S. Air bought the American Airlines book. They bought the book. They bought the planes. Okay. But American Airlines didn't make money for decades. They lost money every year. And now, they have a quarter here or there where they made some money. But they lost money decade after decade after decade. Southwest makes money every quarter. Just not as much as they used to. So why would you want to go to the model of the also ran, the model of the guy who didn't make money for decades at a time? Okay. I don't know why. It's always about the money. And that's, again, where you draw the line. If you say it's always about the money short term, anytime you make a short-term decision, anytime you make a big decision based on short-term results, I guess I should say that, there are usually going to be consequences to pay. Now, sometimes you have to make short-term decisions. For instance, you're cooking dinner and it's burning. Do you just hang around and think maybe it'll stop smoking, or do you turn it off right now? Okay, you turn it off right now, even though, well, the recipe said that put the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes and only been 15 minutes. Well, if the smoke coming out, short-term decision is turn off the fire, turn off the stove and take the food out, okay? That's a short-term decision that you probably want to act on. Not so much business, not so much, okay, here's a snapshot in time and things aren't working well this week, so let's change things. It's always about the money. True. But dear listeners, please, if you're going to say it's always about the money, that does not mean it's always about making more. Because if you have enough, isn't that enough? I get it. If you don't have enough, you still need to make more. And you still need to be working. You still need to be making more money. But it's okay to take a breath and not spend every waking moment working so you can buy more stuff. That tends to be a recipe for disaster. Stay with the plan. Stay with the program. Walmart did. Look, just offer cheap prices to everybody so you can come in and buy their stuff, all right? Yeah, I get it. You're going to have the 400-pound gal in a halter top walking through the store occasionally. Or the kids running rampant all around, screaming, yelling, hollering. You're going to have all that kind of stuff because that's Walmart. Everybody goes there. But the affluent shoppers shop at Walmart. And if you think about it, why do you think these people are affluent? Because they go someplace else and pay more for their stuff? No. You become affluent. It's a simple process. How do you obtain wealth? It's not really it's a mathematical formula, but there's no numbers assigned to it. No firm numbers. It goes something like this. Earn more than you spend. It doesn't matter what those values are. If you earn $1 million a year and spend $1.1 million a year, you're broke. If you make $50,000 a year and you spend $40,000 a year, you're on your way to building wealth. It's as simple as that. And I'm wondering if the old man in me who says, look, I like to go to a store, pick it up, look at it, try it on, and then buy it. People have called me a dinosaur. No, we don't do things that way. We order stuff online. We do it this way. We do it that way. Walmart's the only retailer that's up. The stock market is up based on an increase in retail sales. Put a pencil to paper and figure out where we're going. Well, that's it. I'm done. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address, JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. I love getting your emails. I love responding to them. I love corresponding with you, dear listeners. That's it. We're done. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.